Welcome back to the Horror to Culture Vidcast, episode number 16 for those of you keeping track out there today. My name is Matt, and I'll be your host. Up first today, we have a very brief review of the newly released Stephen King adaptation of The Monkey, directed by Osgood Perkins. The Monkey was first published in 1980, but it didn't get a wider recognition until the release of the book of short stories Skeleton Crew by Stephen King in 1985. And I don't go to the theaters very much, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, but I went and saw The Monkey over the weekend. And for the first time, and probably the last time in my life, I even purchased the exclusive popcorn buckets for the film, which is pretty cool. As for my honest review of the movie, on the positive side, it definitely works as a black comedy. There's definitely some chuckle-worthy moments scattered throughout. Likewise, there are some very inventive death sequences in the film, plenty of gore, and the monkey itself... for being an inanimate object, definitely sets itself up as a menacing horror icon. However, while the film is a fun ride, definitely worth checking out, it's a little bit mindless, and it kind of falls apart somewhere in the middle. Some of the humor falls a little bit flat for me. The relationships all seem a bit forced as well. It's wacky, it's zany, and The Monkey is a Stephen King adaptation directed by Osgood Perkins once again, but there really wasn't enough cinematic elements to this film to make it seem must-see worthy in theaters. For me personally, it was a little too silly and goofy. I'd probably recommend waiting until it's streaming or at least on VOD. That's just my opinion. And of course, the concept of The Monkey, King had a more modern approach to the classic tale of The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs, which was first published in 1902. And for much, much more on the topic of cursed films, books, and objects, please check out episode 5 of the Horror to Culture podcast. Up next, and continuing on the theme of black comedies and dark humor, we have the 2025 film Companion, which is newly streaming on VOD, starring Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher, who is not only gorgeous, but also happens to be very talented, and of course stars in the Showtime series Yellow Jackets, which just came back for the long-awaited Season 3. Sophie Thatcher is a rising horror icon, also appeared in another Stephen King adaptation of The Boogeyman last year. She also appeared in Heretic last year, which we also recently reviewed on a recent episode of the vidcast. And Companion is a long line of robot girlfriend or animatronic revenge films that have been popping up for at least since the film Deadly Friend by Wes Craven in 1986, all the way up to Megan in 2022. Companion isn't necessarily anything new, but there are some really cool, solid performances in there, especially from Thatcher, and the plot and concept are just interesting enough to keep you engaged. So I definitely recommend checking out if you're in the mood for an action-packed, bloody, black comedy. Companion is currently available to rent on Fandango. Not to shamelessly self-promote here, but if you want to hear more about artificial intelligence and robots run amok, I'd recommend going back and checking out episode 15 of the Horror to Culture podcast. That's going to do it for today, folks. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Spring is finally on the horizon, so until next time, keep creepy, stay spooky, and be sure to visit www.horrortoculture.com for a plethora of original articles, essays, short stories, exclusive interviews, and of course, our podcast archive. Until next time, see you on the next edition.